I want to know where you stood with seeing, one, the military's capability, and two, the weakness that has infected our military and impacted our recruitment and retention.
We are not ready to get Marines shipped to shore if we need to operate in a major conflict in, say, the Pacific or anywhere else where we're going to be conducting, ship to shore operations. In my mind, and this is just my opinion, I think that it maybe took a back burner to other priorities, because at the end of the day, if you make something a priority, then that's going to be your priority and you're going to focus on it. I think the priorities were not on readiness as much as they were on other things. Another war is coming eventually, and we have to be ready because we have to win when that happens.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Show, still in Las Vegas, Nevada at SHOT Show 2025. And we're in the Smith & Wesson booth. You can see behind us. Smith & Wesson has been generous to set up a ad hoc studio. And our guest, Kagan Dunlap, United States Marine, currently first lieutenant, and built an incredible platform to share truth and perspective to his audience, and about 1 million followers now.
So I think Instagram's at 910, YouTube's at like 900 or 750.
Yeah.
And I think that TikTok is at like 980.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so 3 million or ish.
Close to it.
Yeah.
Get close.
Incredible audience. And so we're gonna dive into being in the military, being an influencer, emotion and ideologies versus truth. So many things I want to talk to you about. But before we get going, being in Smith & Wesson's booth, I don't know if you know this about the show, but every guest gets a Smith & Wesson firearm. So,
I did not know that about this show. That's a pleasant surprise, though.
Yes. I mean. So you're going to get to pick, we got on the wall, but even beyond this, any Smith & Wesson you want, we're gonna hook you up with.
Dang.
And then Vortex Optics. We're gonna throw a Vortex Optics on it and put you, and then
Dude,
and then some Gators eyewear to protect your eyes.
Okay.
So
dude, hell yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah. So that's a kind of huge bonus.
Yeah, hell yeah. I
Probably
didn't expect anything. I'm just here to hang out, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's probably the only reason I get guest on is
I don't care if you gave me nothing, man. I'd come on and talk to you anyway.
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it is. You got a pretty busy schedule, so it is awesome to have you here.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about. Well, first of all, I just found out we have in common that we both started in the Marine Corps as 0352s.
Yeah.
Which are tow gunners.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just figured you're like Ricky Recon the whole time. You know what I mean?
Well, I went in and 17 years old in 1993, and I had an infantry contract. Back then, didn't have recon contracts.
Okay.
And so I had a high GT score because I knew I wanted to go recon.
Nice.
And all the guys with the higher GT scores. By the way, I had a high GT score, but I was not a high school graduate even at the time.
No
Didn't have
kidding.
GED. The Marine Corps helped me get in because of my personal kind of hardships and
Sure, yeah.
childhood. So
Self-induced hardships?
family hardships.
Family,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I was kind of living on my own and at that time, and I shared the whole story with you later. But my brother died when I was like 15. My family fell apart. I was living by myself and went to see a Marine Corps recruiter named Staff Sergeant Ronald Brown. Still remember his name 30 years later. Because most people remember their recruiter's name because they hate them.
that guy lied to me. Dang.
Yeah, but I remember this guy's name because I went in and it was just like, my dreams to be a recon Marine. This is my situation. I'm not going to graduate high school. I'm living on my own, and I need help. And then Marine Corps extended an olive branch and got me enlisted on an infantry contract without even a high school diploma.
Dang.
And
in 1993?
1993.
1993.
And I made a promise, not contractual. I just made a promise when I got out of infantry school and got to the fleet that I would get a GED.
Yeah.
And I went to Twin M Palms and went to Copper Mountain College there and got my GED. And all these years later,
look at you now.
Look, I got an MBA.
Knocking it out of the park, man.
I can't spell MBA, but I got one.
I can't spell. I don't spell in public. You know what I'm saying? Only in private.
So yeah, super thankful for the Marine Corps for that. But yes, I went to be a tow gunner because everybody showed up at infantry school with like GT of like over 110, 115.
Yeah,
that's where they put them. And then
and that's the same for they asked us like who's got the highest GT scores here, and I had 124, I think, GT score, and so my recruiter was trying to get me to do something else. He tried to make me go be a truck driver or something. I was like, no. The only thing I wanted to do in the Marine Corps was join the infantry. That's the only thing I'd ever wanted to do. It took me 7 years to get in the first place. So I was like, I worked so hard to get here, at all. So I'm doing the job I want to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm 38 now, so I'm not trying to continue to do the same thing because I've shrank an inch since I've been in. My back hurts. My feet are all jacked up. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, the tools of infantrymen.
Yeah. So now I'm more on the support side of things, but so did you guys have dragons? Is that what you had back then?
No, because there was 51s were the Dragons.
Oh, the 51s had Dragons.
Yeah, 0351s were Dragons, and then 52s were Till Gunners. So I actually I asked to go to 29 Palms.
Okay.
Believe it or not, because in my mind, I'd like all the hard Marines and infantry on 29 Palms.
Yeah.
Like the toughest ones, it's the worst place to go. That's where I want to go.
The guys that had the best training facilities available to them at all times.
You're training, like you're weekly in the field, like you're at war, like all the time. So it's like a really good, especially in peacetime Marine Corps. And that was 93. But I went to, I was kind of bummed at first because everybody that went to 29 Palms got like 17, 27, 37. They were going to the weapons companies. And I seen 1st Tank Battalion. I'm like,
oh, you got put in tanks?
Yeah, so I got put in tanks, and there was a tow and scout platoon.
Okay.
Which like kind of like a cat platoon. And you know, we had Mark 19s, 50 cals mounted on vehicles, and you know, doing like forward reconnaissance or like scouting or flank security screening for the Abrams. And so it was actually kind of cool. I only stayed there for like 6 months, and I kept trying out for recon. Yeah. And would pass the indoc every time, and they wouldn't take me because they were taking corporals at the time, but they were still letting you know, junior enlisted screen, but they just wasn't taking it. And then I went to state platoon, and then as soon as I got to state platoon, I went through state school. And after state school, they offered me the opportunity to go to Recon Battalion.
And now, at the time, like, I know there's a difference between being just a regular recon unit and then forced recon. Yeah. Two very different things. And you did force, correct?
I did recon first. Okay. So I went at a weird time, and so the recon Marines listening, the newer ones, probably a little bit of history. Recon Battalion was in 1994. The commandant disbanded Recon Battalion, made it a company, and every regimental commander got a platoon. So they took they broke it down to the Recon company was at 1st Marine Division. Yeah. And then every regimental commander got one platoon that worked at the headquarters for 7th Marines, 5th Marines. Wow. And this was for about a 4-year period. No kidding. And so I originally was going to Recon Battalion, went through the RIP program, and that in the middle of me doing that was when the disbandment happened. So the guys that were from 29 Palms went back to 29 Palms, went to 7th Marines. Colonel Mattis was the regimental CEO at the time. Oh, wow. And I remember being a little bummed because, you know, you're focused on Recon Battalion, now it's a company. Yeah. I'm like going back to 29 Palms. But man, I am so grateful for that opportunity because all those guys there, one Colonel Mattis, and then we had a guy named Gunnar Galinas, who was a Recon Marine in Vietnam. And he was a chief warrant officer for a time. So he's like had this combat experience that was rare, and he was a gunner, and he was tasked with leading up this platoon. Yeah. And Colonel Mattis like pushed us and tested us at every, you know, Wolfpack Beacon, all these big training exercises that happen at 29 Palms. Yeah. We really got employed into doing that. All the guys that came out of that platoon ended up like pretty, like a lot of, you know, got a couple of guys went to Dev Group, a couple of guys went to, you know, on the MARSOC and Force. And so I went from there and then ended up being at 3rd Force Recon Company. Okay. And then from there I tried out to represent the Marine Corps at JSOC and one of the SMUs. It's
crazy, you know, because like when you were describing the way that what they did with the reconnaissance battalion, they kind of did a similar thing with the scout snipers for a little while, because scout snipers used to be like at the regiment, and then they moved them back to the battalions, and then they were in like the headquarters and service company for the battalion, and then they moved them to the weapons company, and then snipers were in weapons company for a long period of time, which is where they were when I got to the fleet. And so I became really good friends with a lot of the snipers because they were usually older, a little bit more mature. I was 27 when I enlisted, so I was like a little older, and I could relate to them a little bit more, you know. I mean, we're still act like idiots, like everybody does when you're in the infantry, you know, right? But I got along with those guys really well. But I mean, obviously, you've seen what's going on with that. They kind of got rid of the MOS, and now they're sending.
I hope it comes back.
I hope it comes back. I think so. My personal opinion, what happened was like when they needed them in Vietnam, they brought them back, right? And then they went away again. And then they came back when we went back to it, when we were in Operation Iraqi Freedom, and we started really getting into all that stuff, and then they went away again. And I think the next big conflict, they're going to bring them back and be like, you know what, this is a stupid idea. We should probably bring these guys back, you know?
Yeah, for those listening and don't know what we're talking about, Marine Corps Scout Sniper School, division level Scout Sniper School is like, I would say is the premier Scout Sniper school in the world, not just U.S. military, in the world. And in this last cycle of commandants, General Berger made the call to close that school down. Yeah, and I'm not General Berger, right?
I think they made the decision to like cut the training pipeline and change it after that. I want to say it was while he was the commandant, but I can't remember for sure. I think that, and I've talked to a lot of my buddies that are in the Scout Sniper community, and they all feel the same way. I mean, you're going to get a more in-depth level of training. The hard part is that it is 3 months long, and then they've got, all these other follow-on schools like Mountain Sniper, Urban Sniper, Team Leaders course, all these things before you can become like a Razorback or whatever. But that's just like a ton of schooling. But it is so valuable because like you don't get that kind of training I don't believe anywhere else.
No.
I think Army comes to a lot of these schools that we would hold.
Oh yeah, I mean that schoolhouse. Navy SEAL snipers have been through it. The Recon snipers would go through it.
Yeah,
everybody went to that school because it was the premier school in the world. And now it's gone, and it's pretty historic.
Yeah,
and now the way that it was laid out to me was that the Marine Corps felt like the stay platoons could just focus on the stay strategic target acquisitioning and doing that surveillance for the through the weapons companies.
Sure.
But didn't need that sniper capability, and they could always lean on the Recon, Force Recon, or MARSOC for that sniper capability. But the truth is, on the battlefield, Recon Battalion they're going to always get the needs of the division commander over a battalion level commander. On the MARSOC side, those snipers are going to be first priority is going to be SOCOM missions.
Yeah.
So on the battlefield, it's hard to share an asset like that.
Yeah.
And we kept our school. So MARSOC still has their sniper school, and Recon still has their sniper school.
Good.
But the infantry, pretty much, sniper school is. So I hope it comes back.
Yeah, I do too, man. And I think there's just value in having like actual subject matter experts on precision marksmanship at long distances, especially because I think even 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, we had, I think our battalion commander and maybe even Sergeant Major got killed from a sniper in Afghanistan, I believe. I think they both did, or one of them did. I wasn't there at the time, but like having that counter sniper team that can cover them as they're moving from vehicles, that can like screen an entire area and just like make sure they're glassing while the BC and the Sergeant Major, or anybody that's high value or whatever, they can provide that overwatch, that guardian angel position, so they can watch over stuff. There's real value in that. And then on top of it, they're just great as forward observers for the 81 millimeter mortar platoon, for the 60s and all the companies. If the weapons company commander has artillery or air CAS assets and stuff like that, these snipers,
they can become JTACs, and
they're perfect for the job,
And if you're going to have, like you said, the threat of snipers, the only true counter sniper effort is snipers. Snipers are,
like real trained, full school trained snipers. Yeah, man.
But for you, so you start off as infantryman.
Yeah.
What was that time like, and why did you transition to the officer side?
Yeah. So I mean, when I first joined, I knew I was dead set. I was like, I'm going to go in the infantry. I originally wanted to go into MARSOC, and after I went to the SOI schoolhouse, I was like, being in this field kind of sucks, man. I don't think I want to do that anymore. And I ended up stopping because I was in really good shape. I was really fit because I did CrossFit all the time for 2 years. I was just very good shape, very strong. Always had really good PFT, CFT, all that stuff. But I still wanted to do the infantry, so I went and did the tow gunner thing. Obviously you're carrying a lot of weight, carrying the fake missile and stuff that's filled with concrete and all that. Got to the fleet. It was after I'd got to the fleet, I got to it in August of 2014. So the last time that 2-3 had deployed to Afghanistan was their Marja deployment in 2010, which I had friends that were on that deployment because there's a couple of them that were still in the unit when I got there. Yeah. Which is cool. I'm still really close with one of them, actually, a guy named Charles that's out in California right now. He's in school to become a engineer. He's building rockets, working for what's it called, Northrop Grumman.
Okay.
But he's a smart dude. He's a mortarman too. He was in that Marja deployment, that 2010 one. But that's the last time they went to combat. After that, they just did nothing but unit deployment programs out to Okinawa, Japan. They would go to, they'd do MRFDs down in Australia. They'd go to Korea, Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia, things like that. But so most of my experience all of my experience in infantry was in a non-combat training environment. We're just LARPing. We're pretty much LARPing the whole time. You know what I mean? So a lot of jungle training. Did the Jungle Warfare Training Center in Camp Gonzalez, northern Okinawa, twice. Endurance course out there. Did some we did land navigation out there. We did a lot of training on Hawaii. This place called McTab, Marine Corps Training Area, Bellows. It's southeast of the Marine Corps base, Hawaii, Kaneohe Bay. We went to the Big Island, would train sometimes out there, like the Big Island of Hilo of Hawaii. There's a big Army base there near, I think it's called Mauna Kea, the big, huge, or maybe it's Puhakaloa. No, it's called Puhakaloa Training Area, PTA.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a big. It looks like Mordor out there. It's just like volcanic rock and stuff like that. It's crazy. So I mean, most of my experience in the infantry is just train to train, and then you deploy. And then while you're deployed, you're just training, and you're working with partner forces. Like we worked with the South Koreans, South Korean Marines. We did an Incheon landing reenactment in 2015 out there, which was really cool. We were, staying on, like, a small contingency of us stayed on their ships that we had given them, I think, at some point in the past, and they had AAVs. And then we would ride on these John boats and do this reenactment to like landing on Incheon, like at Incheon, which now there's like a fairgrounds there, which is very interesting to see. And we would land and like all these people would be taking pictures of. I'm sure there's like pictures of us up on someone's fireplace or something out there in South Korea. But did that, trained up on the border of South Korea. Did some machine gun ranges out there. Stayed on Osan Air Force Base for about a month and a half while we were there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just training. It was interesting. You remember that situation when there was like a missile threat at Hawaii and everyone was freaking out thinking there was like an incoming missile there in like 2016?
No. 16?
Yeah, I think it's 2016.
Yeah.
So during our workup, we flew from Hawaii to Yuma, Arizona to do some training. We're doing a WTI out there, weapons training integration. It's when, like, if you're in the infantry and you got to a WTI, you're essentially affording the air wing the opportunity to support an infantry unit in what they're doing. So that's kind of why they're like, hey, we need to pick an infantry unit to go out there so that these guys can get some training. And when we landed there, I can't remember if it was like Dover Air Force Base or something, but as soon as we landed, everyone's phones blew up from not having signal, and everyone's wives were freaking out back on the island because there's like a missile threat that got blasted all over everyone's cell phone devices or cell devices. So everyone's like freaking out, calling their spouse, like thinking of like a missile got like detonated somewhere on the island. And that was a really interesting situation. It was like all over the news at one point, but and I'm sure that anybody watching this will be like, "Oh, I remember that. That was crazy." Like, so that was happening. But basically, I what I did is after my second deployment, we went to Camp Fuji, did some stuff out in Fuji, and then when we came back from that deployment, I did this thing that's called FAP. It's the Fleet Assistance Program. And I basically did that so that I could have time to put together my MECEP package. And because it's just a crap ton of bureaucratic paperwork, like everything in the military. So I did that, and I went and worked at the Marine Corps Base Hawaii Range for about 6 months, put my package together, dropped it. Then I came back to my unit, went back to 29 Palms for 2 months. We did an ITX, integrated training exercise. And then once we got back from that, I got my package boarded, and then we deployed again for my third UDP at Okinawa. And while I was in Okinawa on my third UDP, I got selected for the program in June after the board convened.
I want to talk about that program for those listening, because I get asked a lot about this, and I think it's just valuable information to have.
Yeah.
There's great programs in all the branches of service, and I don't know them all, but I'm familiar with the MECEP program. Yeah. And so for a young man or woman joining the Marine Corps, this is like being intentional and like eyeing that program is a really great way to transition to entry into the military, get some experience in the enlisted side, and then have the Marine Corps actually pay you as your rank to go to college, be a student full time, and then transition you to be an officer. It's a really great opportunity. Yeah. And a super attainable one. It's not I mean, it's competitive, but it's pretty attainable.
Yeah, if you just put the work in to get the package together, you're probably going to get selected because they're hurting for officers. They're hurting for everybody at this point. Like, I mean, recruiting and retention is a big focus for the military right now because it's been historically over the past couple of years, it's been down. So like they're definitely, if you try to put in a package, you put it together, and you're competitive, like you're probably going to get selected. And not only the things that you were saying, but all the time that you spend in college is time in service.
Yes.
Meaning time towards retirement, which means you could spend 4 years of your career at college and that counts towards your retirement.
Yeah.
How sweet is that?
And you're getting what, E6 pay?
You're getting paid at whatever rank you were when you get there. Most of the time you have to be a sergeant when you put into the program, at least. Yeah. So when I got there, I was a sergeant. I got promoted non-competitively to staff sergeant while I was in college. And then, commission as a staff.
You get E6 pay. You're getting
E6 BAH, comrades,
or so BAH is like basic allowance for housing.
Yeah. And it's based on your zip code. So if you're in California, well, they're going to pay you based on whatever zip code you're in California. If you're in New York City, and you're going to NYU or something like that, whatever.
Where else can you get paid? Pretty much 6 figures a year.
Yeah, pretty much.
To be a college student.
Yeah, you don't have to get a second job. Like I got a second job just because it was like I wanted to meet people. I started like bouncing on the weekends for a little bit, just to meet people in the area, and like worked at a bar called Might As Well downtown Chapel Hill. And met a bunch of the football players. Actually, funny enough, one of the guys that I bounced with there just joined the Navy this past year. Yeah, and he's in I think the EOD pipeline right now. I won't say who he is. I don't want to give his private stuff, but it's funny, just like these small connections. And I don't know what impact I had on that dude. I don't know if like he maybe saw some of my stuff that was like, maybe this is a viable career opportunity.
Hey man, it works. We ran into a guy yesterday. Yeah. I was at the Gators booth, and a guy walked up to me and he said, I heard your episode on Jocko 3 years ago. And I went to the Navy recruiter from there and signed up to be a chaplain. Just finished his MDiv, and he's about to start being a chaplain in the Navy because he heard the episode.
That's freaking cool, man.
That's always super encouraging.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. Like I think you're a great example of like good leadership and mentorship that a lot of people don't grow up with, and a lot of these folks that are out here doing the same thing that you guys are doing, like there's a lot of good role models. Right. And there's a lot of these folks, a lot of these cats come up, they maybe they didn't grow up with a father. Maybe they didn't grow up with both their parents. Maybe their grandparents raised them. Maybe they grew up in the inner city and they just didn't have any good role models there, and like having some of this exposure, because social media is something that people are spending so much time on today, is so valuable because like it's providing something to somebody that maybe they didn't have an opportunity or a resource available to them in their vicinity, in their area of influence or whatever. And that has a positive impact on them. And you can impact thousands, millions of people like this.
Sure, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I mean, you have an audience of 3 million. And by the way, like talk about influencing people. My son is a Marine. My father's a Marine. Both my sons are Marines. He's an Afghanistan veteran from 2019. It was Anglico. But he's always been like a history nerd, like history buff, news person. Yeah. And he is loyal follower of your channel.
Is he really?
And so he actually wanted to do, he's like, I don't want to do a podcast. I'd love to just, as I consume history and news, I'd love to be able to replicate it. And he's like, he said you were doing exactly what. So just, I think last month he's pretty much kind of mimicking the style you have with
No kidding.
So he's like your protege.
Hey, well, I mean, like, honestly, like, I'm all about it. Like, I want people to do the things they enjoy, especially in our community and veterans. I want to see everybody succeed. I want to be supportive of everybody out here who's like getting after it and doing things that they're passionate about. Because we need good influences. We need good people that are in, like, if you can teach people something, what are you providing of value to somebody?
Right.
Because that's what it comes down to. People are going to consume your content if you're providing something of value, whether it's comedic relief, whether you're teaching them something, whether you're keeping them informed about issues that they're interested in, like any of that stuff. And that's huge.
Well, for what you're doing, I think it's really special for a couple of reasons. One, you're an active duty Marine, so obviously the Marine Corps is going to allow or not allow you to do that. So at any point it can be like, hey, you're not doing it anymore because you forfeited some freedoms.
It is what it is. Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
But what that does provide to your audience is that you're not going to be sharing bum scoop out there.
No, I'm not going to put some crap out there that I can't, maybe I can't verify, or if I can't verify it, I'm going to be like, I did not verify this, and I will publicly state that so they know that I didn't verify it. And then I'll be like, you can take this for what you will. I saw this. I don't know if this is true or not. Right. But I'll be transparent about it. I'm not going to lie to people and be like, oh, look at this crazy stuff that's happening. Because you see a lot of these pages on Twitter and all these other places, they just share just a bunch of crap.
They want to be first.
Yeah, they just want to be first, and they didn't vet it, or they didn't look into it to see if other people were talking about it.
We've had the conversation here a couple of times. There's something about being first, but I believe that if you're rushing the failure of being first, a lot of time, and oftentimes is a failure. Yeah, you may get the clicks up front, you may get the views, but long-term sustainability, you lose trustability and reliability, and it's not a long-term plan. Yeah, and but man, in an age where mainstream media has become untrustworthy.
Yeah, people have lost a lot of trust in mainstream.
Oh, for sure. I mean, me included. And I'm a Fox contributor. Yeah, and I'll say it like I don't trust any of them. I'll get on there and do my thing. But as a consumer, I know that one, it's you going on with like wave top sound bites.
Yeah.
If I go on as an expert, they bring me on as an expert on something on Fox. A hit on Fox is usually like 3 to 5 minutes, and with the dialogue with maybe a second guest or just the host, I'm getting a half or a third of that time. So you're talking like anywhere from a minute and a half to like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, just
max.
a little time. You don't
get
what you get from this.
No. And so I think consumers of media with podcasting available and social media, people are able to get and pick the news they want from people they trust and get a deeper dive in information from like shows like this and what you're doing and the consistency you have with doing it. And a lot of the mainstream media, a lot of other even influencers, they're kind of basing things off of emotion and personal ideologies and agendas.
Or they get paid to say something.
They're getting paid to say something.
And we all know that because you can look it up, see who these political action committees that are paying certain people, what I mean? And it's like, okay, that political action committee is known for being a big contributor to this party or to this party. And they're giving you money, which means they are telling you what to say.
Yep.
It means you're bought and paid for it. I can't trust you.
But and that's what's different what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's fact based.
Yeah.
And that's necessary. So what's your as you look at how you communicate with fact based information, what's your methodology for that? Like,
well, and I'll say this: I've jacked it up before, and I'm gonna jack it up again in the future because I'm a human being, and everybody's human beings. We're fallible. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
But when I jack something up, I try to correct it. I try to be like,
that's the key.
Look, I screwed this up. I messed this one up. This is not accurate. I'll change the caption and I'll be like, this is what is actually the case right now. Or, if it's just like the whole thing is completely false or it's just all not real, I'll just delete it and just remove it. I won't even say anything. I'll just take it off so that way I'm not pushing bad information out there. And I think that's a first step is being able to admit if you jack something up. But I'm sorry, what was
the question was just like, what's the mission behind what you're doing? Like, why you got into it first of all. What's your continuing mission of why you're doing it? What's the driving factor?
So I'll say this. I don't know if you know. You ever heard of that page, Mostly Peaceful Memes?
I've seen it before.
You've seen it? So I actually ran into the person that runs that page here. He was one of the guys that helped me out in the very beginning of this whole thing. So the thing that kind of got me started on this journey was like the Uvalde, Texas shooting. Okay. And the reason I brought this up with Nick Freitas too, I told him the story as well. But when the Uvalde, Texas shooting happened, there was there's one of the teachers that was killed was the mother of a Marine reservist.
Okay.
Now his father died the same week. I don't know if it was from a broken heart or what, but like he lost this Marine reservist who was in college in Texas lost both of his parents in the same week due to this horrible tragic situation. And I think it was April of 2022, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I only found out because I happened to be scrolling on Facebook. I don't know why the hell I was doing that because I don't look at Facebook for anything anymore. But I was scrolling through and I saw this post of this young looking Marine, looked like he was a PFC or PFC, and had his mother and father next to him on the parade deck at Parris Island. And there was a GoFundMe in the post talking about both of his parents had lost their lives, and it was for this, to pay for the funeral costs for this guy's parents. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like, oh no, okay, so his mother was killed in Uvalde at the shooting at the school, and then his father died the same week. I need to get this information out there so that people know because we need to help this family. Like nobody cares more about vets and active duty service members than vets and active duty service members.
Right.
I know it's a double-edged sword because we were just talking about how nobody hates on our own community more than we do as well.
Right.
But I think we have an obligation as service members or veterans to take care of each other, especially when we're hurting, because nobody else is going to step up and take the initiative on that stuff. Sometimes.
It's our community.
Yeah, it's our community. We have an obligation and responsibility to do that. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to send this to everybody I know. I shot it out and it gave an explanation to like 50 people, and I got maybe 100 people. I don't remember. I was just like pushing it out there, and I don't know if it was because of me. It did get shared by that page, The Typical Liberal, on Instagram. I saw him. He shared it, and so I watched the money go up by a few $100,000 that day, and I was like, I need to be able to do this without asking for anyone else's help. I need to be able to do this independently without needing any assistance.
Right.
Because I can really make a difference in people's lives doing this kind of thing, you know? And at first it was wonky the way I started it off and the way that I kind of got it. I was like doing stuff like a boomer, basically. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was trying to figure it out. Like I did a lot of stitching and a lot of like, you know, I'd have a video play and then I'd cut myself in and like give some like narration or something. And then it slowly transitioned to maybe I can do something, because I like teaching people stuff. I like learning stuff because it helps me learn and retain information when you're teaching. Some of the best instructors, the reason they're the best instructors because they're teaching it over and over and over again, and they're just, that information is getting ingrained in their memory. And so like I thought, okay, I want to provide something to people that's of value to them. And so like the thing I can do is like I can teach them about things that are happening around the world. I can talk about military technology and culture, military history, and then just current events and current affairs that could potentially impact all of us. Because like especially folks in the military veteran community, things that happen around, like on the other side of the planet, may impact us, because it could result in a deployment, could result in some sort of troop movement, could result in something.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what got me driving in that direction. And like I'm not like the most generous philanthropic dude, but I try to do stuff to help people. I try to get the word about things out to as many people as I can if it's important. Like when the hurricanes hit, you know, Western North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia, you know, like that situation, I was able to take some leave and go up to the mountains to do some stuff and film some things. I'm from there too, so like I have a vested interest in the area. And then like there's a lot of good organizations like the Independence Fund, the Save Our Allies group, like the Hunter 7 Foundation with they're doing all their cancer research and free cancer screenings for vets. Like there's another one called Jets for Vets that flies, you know, service members home for the holidays if they're stationed out in PACOM and they're like junior enlisted and they can't afford it. Like all these great organizations that are taking care of each other, taking care of service members. And like I have the ability to amplify that stuff, you know, and that's what's really rewarding for me, is to do something that's good for other people.
Yeah.
You know, because I just see, especially in like this, if you want to call it the influencer community, on a lot of these platforms, most of them just are pretty much solely self-serving. You don't really see them do a lot of philanthropy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, I try to not make it about myself as often as I don't really talk about my service unless I'm on a podcast, really. Right. Because I don't think anyone cares what I've done, like as much as like, hey, what can we do to like support each other? I think that's the most important thing. So that's really kind of what led me up to here is like what kind of because you only got one life to live, and eventually we're all going to be dust, like where we came from. We're, you know, from dust we came and from dust we shall return, right? So I want to do something good with my life while I'm on this earth, you know, because you're not going to be here forever. So that's kind of it, you know.
When you get this platform that you have, you got to do. I think you got to use it for something good, and it's really cool to see that. The title of this show is The Resilient Show, and one of our motivations behind this show is to make people resilient, and that's either through sharing inspirational, resilient stories or sharing information, because I believe, you know, information helps people be prepared, and being prepared means you're ready for whatever is going to come your way, whatever kind of obstacle is going to come your way, and you know, that readiness and preparedness makes you resilient. And but people have to be informed. And have to be informed from reliable sources. And not the misinformation that's out there. So it's
there's plenty of that.
Yeah, plenty of that. So it's awesome that you're doing that. I'm super proud that Smith & Wesson Firearms is a supporter of this show. I have been shooting Smith & Wesson Firearms since I was a kid. This is one of America's most patriotic companies that has been around 170 years. The Resilient Show is honored to partner with Smith & Wesson. I personally use Smith & Wesson Firearms every day for my everyday carry. I keep Smith & Wesson Firearms in my home for my home defense. When I'm out on the range practicing, it is a Smith & Wesson at the end of my grip. So check them out, and I hope you join me in carrying one of America's most iconic firearms. One of the things specifically I want to talk about is the military's current state. The strategic capability of the military, I believe, is still capable of being, you know, it's the most powerful military in the world.
100%.
However, there's problems in the military, and we have a new SecDef probably going to get confirmed by the time this rolls out. We'll probably have, you know, Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense. One of the things that Pete has talked about, and I've been a pretty open advocate for him and supporting him. Probably will, you know, serve to support him in his role. And the reason why I've been kind of behind him is he sees the military as strategically capable, but he sees the biggest weakness in the military as in the morale, recruitment and retention. And I believe that's the biggest threat we have on our national security is our military's morale, recruitment, and retention. We're the lowest recruitment numbers since Vietnam.
Yeah.
The retentions, we can't retain guys that have deployment experience, combat experience. These guys are getting out, and it's primarily due to the morale because of woke ideologies that's been pushed into our ranks. And I don't know how much you can talk about that as a service member, but I want to know where you stood with seeing, one, the military's capability, and two, the weakness that has infected our military and impacted our recruitment and retention.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing for sure that I can talk on that I know about is, and I've talked to other folks that are, in higher positions in the Marine Corps that don't like to really put themselves out there about this kind of stuff, but I have communications with certain people. And one of the big things that people are very concerned about, as far as from the Marine Corps' perspective, is the amphibious assault capabilities of the Marine Corps, because we work with the Navy to do that. And one of the problems we have right now is all of our amphibious assault ships are in extremely poor states of disrepair. Not all of them, but a good majority. And there's a report. Actually, let me make sure that I cite this correctly, so that, because there's a report that was publicly released about this. The amphibious warfare fleet. Navy needs to complete key efforts to better ensure ships are available for Marines. So one of the big problems that they've been coming into is that there's currently 32 amphibious warfare ships, and this is public information. This is publicly available. There's a House report, 117 TAC 397, that was talking about the extent to which the Navy Marine Corps are addressing challenges with fleet availability, maintenance challenges, and the Navy being positioned to meet its fleet size requirements going in the future. Bottom line is, the big thing that they cover in this open source document is the fact that we are not ready to get Marines shipped to shore if we need to operate in a major conflict in, say, the Pacific or anywhere else where we're going to be conducting, ship to shore operations. We're not ready for that, because in my mind, and this is just my opinion, I think that it maybe took a back burner to other priorities, because at the end of the day, if you make something a priority, then that's going to be your priority, and you're going to focus on it, and you're going to put attention towards it, and you're going to make sure that it's getting taken care of. I think that the priorities, and it always varies upon administration to administration, I think the priorities were not on, readiness as much as they were on other things. And that's one thing I can say that's pretty unbiased and pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty clear, and everyone who's a thinking, breathing human being can look at how the military is, and who the administrations were when they were being, when they were there, and see what kind of the priorities of that administration were, and where they are going, at least seeming to go now. I know that when I was at Pete Hegseth's hearing, one of the things he spoke about was readiness, and bringing things back to being centralized, focused on war fighting. Lethality, which is what the military's purpose is. Now, I think the Marine Corps does a very good job with branding in that sense, because we've done a very good job of staying on brand. Our purpose is war fighting and fighting and winning the nation's battles, because there's going to come another battle's coming, another war is coming eventually, and we have to be ready, because we have to win when that happens. And so the Marine Corps does a good job of maintaining that as its centralized focus. I do feel that the Marine Corps is still ready, and we still have a lot of very good, capable young men and women who are ready to give it everything they've got to protect, support, defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And especially a lot of guys that have been out for a little while, they're like, oh man, everybody's gotten soft. The infantry's gotten soft, all this stuff. I am very confident in these young folks' ability to prosecute targets and to fight and defend our Constitution. I've personally seen a lot of folks, especially even just from 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, just as example, the esprit de corps is there. The motivation is there to do good for the nation. And these folks they have that intrinsic motivation to get out there and get after it. So I feel confident that we still have the people that have the interest there.
Yeah.
We just need to divert our attention back to getting our fleet readiness up so that we can make sure that we can get Marines shipped ashore. We need to bring our attention back to war fighting and lethality. And we need to get focus back on taking care of our people, their families, and prepping them so that way when the next war does happen, when it happens, that everybody's ready across the board. They got the support systems. They got everything they need. And that's pretty much, yeah.
The commander-in-chief is super important. A lot of people don't think of it that way. You think we elect a president of the United States, but the president of the United States wears multiple hats, and one of those other hats is the commander-in-chief of our military, and that really kind of defines the culture of the military, because the commander-in-chief is going to set the trajectory and what's the military going to be focused on.
He's going to set the tone.
The tone, right? That's right. Yeah. I was just at the commander-in-chief's ball.
Yeah.
And it was really awesome to see the energy and excitement.
Yeah.
And we even seen that in the November election happen. The recruiting numbers started going up.
That's what I think I saw.
President-elect.
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
So I mean, this shows the nation has more confidence for America's sons and daughters to raise their hand and be willing to put their life on the line to serve.
Yeah.
Because of who's not just the president but the commander-in-chief.
Yeah. I think statistically it shows that statistically for sure.
Yeah.
What kind of sword was he using to cut that cake? I see. You seen that picture? He's like holding that. It looks like an NCO sword or a Mameluke sword.
It was like an NCO sword. I mean, there was an army one, so I don't know if
it was
they
an
call
army
it NCO,
a
NCO
cavalry sword or something like that.
But
a Custer sword.
But he took it to cut. They gave it to him, I think, to cut the cake, and then he started dancing with it.
He started dancing with this big, pointy, shiny object. I'm like, oh my good.
I know a lot of people were giving him a hard time about it, but in that moment there, it was great.
Oh, I'm sure
all the service members loved it. I'm like, if they were offended by that, they should go to a Marine Corps ball and see. The shenanigans that go.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like. The commander-in-chief was at the Marine Corps ball, it'd be worse than that, right?
Well, I'm glad that everybody was having a good time. Like every picture I've seen of everyone that was at that event, it looked like they were having the time of their lives.
It was. And I'll tell you what I really loved about that event, and it speaks a lot to who President Trump is and who he's going to be the commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
Is I've been to a lot of these type of events and in D.C., and they're all the who's who of the military. It's the brass in the military. And about half of those tickets for the commander-in-chief's ball go to the troops.
Yeah.
So they're unpaid for tickets. They're distributed to troops. But it wasn't the high-ranking enlisted and officer ranks. It was lance corporals. I've seen a few PFCs there.
That's cool.
From all the branches. Some dudes in the Navy that didn't have anything on their shoulders. And no ribbons. And I'm like,
just slick uniforms.
This is just cool to see that these young men and women that have committed to serving our nation and defending people around the world, they get an opportunity to be at something like this.
Yeah.
It wasn't about like the who's who.
Yeah.
It was about the troops.
Yeah, and everybody seemed like they were super proud to be there, like having a great time. Like, I got a good vibe from it. Every picture I saw looked like it was an awesome time. I didn't want to go personally to DC for that piece because I'm at a point now in my life where crowds make me real nervous and paranoid. So I came out here to SHOT Show, which isn't much better because there's crowds here too.
Yeah,
but at least I didn't have to deal with the DC traffic.
Well, yeah, it was crazy there. I mean, the security, my hotel and many of the hotels ended up in a perimeter of the security.
They inner cordons and outer cordons.
Yeah, they built serpentines. No Ubers, no cars at all driving. And now it's at one point it hit 10 degrees and my phone said, feels like 2. And
feels like 2.
And then so now you're walking and they quickly put up barricades. So if your GPS said, hey, it's only half a mile here, well, it's a half mile, but there's barricades. It was amazing. If you want to bring in the southern border, they built the walls to keep people out throughout the city, 10 feet high, and they built those walls in 24 hours. And they didn't plan to do it, by the way. It was because of whatever security threats came about. And I won't say what I know about that, but there was some security threats that came about.
Oh,
they put those walls up right away.
Yeah.
And they were pretty effective.
Pretty expedient.
Yeah, pretty expedient. And they got those things up and pretty much channeled people to have to walk. So even if you were going to one ball that you had we had VIP access to the Commander-in-Chief's ball.
Yeah.
We didn't have to wait in line, but you were in a line of people that were going to 10 different other events. So it was so it was in the cold, in the wind. And ladies out there in high heels and
oh man, were they wearing skirts and stuff too, or
ball gowns and stuff? Yeah, so they're standing out there for hours.
Man, in heels probably.
Yeah,
feet hurt.
Actually, at the end of the night, walking back, one of the ladies we were with, and I've seen a couple ladies, and they had ice on the ground with heels in their hand, walking
barefoot.
Yeah, some tough ladies.
They got them callous feet, man. You know. Speaking of walls, though, you know who has a really good system for their walls? I think, if I'm correct, I think it's Poland.
Yeah,
Poland's border They got it right over there, I think.
They don't let any. I mean,
they're not messing around.
They're not messing around. No Islamic immigrants.
Yeah,
they're like, hey,
I don't think they're letting anybody, like, no matter who they are, whether they're from Belarus or they're from Ukraine or from anywhere, because they're like, we want to make sure that we are controlling the flow of traffic,
right?
Like 100%. And I like that, because it's like, this is our country. You can't have a country without borders. Just the way it is.
Yep. It's
plain and simple. You if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. What's the point of even having a country if you don't have borders to protect the sovereignty of your nation? Like, controlling the flow of traffic, making yourself a hard target. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause that's what you want. You want to be a hard target.
Security.
Yeah.
And you forfeit stability. I think what a lot of people don't realize is America is the most philanthropic country when it comes to giving around the world to people. And for the government, philanthropic or social programs, we have the most giving social programs. I mean, you could look at communist countries, but those aren't effective social. We have the most effective in giving social programs, and we have the highest number of immigration than any other country, hands down. And so those things like are already a tough balance. Now, if you open your borders, you can't have open borders and social systems. The two can't coexist because it collapses. Your country can't support the social needs of the entire world with open borders. So you have to pick between one. You either have to have a secure border or you open the border, but no social program. There's nothing here that you're going to want. So why would you come?
Well, you can't have philanthropy without excess.
Right.
And that's why we're able to give so much stuff away, because we have excess, because we have built these industries. I mean, obviously we have a lot of work to do when it comes to American industry and manufacturing and bringing that kind of stuff back to America, which I think is probably on the agenda, I would imagine, for, some of the things over the next few years here. Getting American manufacturing back up there, maybe opening more businesses, supporting small businesses to open and start across the country. But you can't have philanthropy without excess. And we've gotten to a place where we have some excess. And so that's why we're able to give so much away. But at the end of the day, you only have so much excess. It's going to run out eventually, But
when America's first and America's strong, you have a strong leader in the White House, I believe, in good policies. Not only America is a safer place, but the world becomes a safer place.
Yeah.
And the world becomes a more prosperous place.
Yeah, I think
it's just a secondary effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to have strong leadership, man. You got to have strong leadership who is, very situationally aware, understands what's going on, very in control, and just conscious of what's happening with their people and open communication. I think that's one thing I've noticed, is that there's been a lot of very open lines of communication from people within this administration, at least initially from what I've been seeing. People are able to communicate, hey, this is stuff that's happening, and getting the word passed across so that someone else can take action on it. I think that's important, because that's one of the hardest parts about the bureaucracy of the government, is that you're playing telephone, and then by the time the information gets to the guy who's way up here, it turned into something totally different. It's like morphed into some other thing,
Yeah.
So.
Before we wrap up, I have one you're the current event guy.
Yeah.
So I have one current event topic that I'd like to.
Sure.
Like, I was thinking, if I could pick one, what would it be? And then talk to you about. And it's this idea that President Trump talking about these different territories that he wants to see come under the United States. And, he is a antagonist and one of the best at it. He's a troll. And he's hilarious. I personally love his personality.
Yeah.
However, I don't think he says anything that people think he just said stuff out. I don't think he says anything that he hasn't thought through. And even if it's funny, there's a bit of seriousness behind it.
Yeah.
And so the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, telling Trudeau, if you can't pay the bill, you're going to be the 51st state. Maybe I'll let you be the governor.
Yeah.
Greenland, and in the Panama Canal. These are areas that he's joked about, but I believe he's also very serious about. And now it's transitioned to where he's saying, yeah, these things are things I'm actually looking at. We had Canada, Greenland, the Gulf of America. We control the Panama Canal. We are the largest. America's the largest landmass in the world. We would surpass Russia. We have a lot of strategic outreach and capability. A lot of prosperity, prosperous economic situation that we would create. So what do you think about that? Do you think some of it's joking? Do you think it's serious? Does he have a strategy behind that for national security?
I think he definitely has a strategy for sure, especially when the Gulf of America thing, because I think one of the things that happened right before the Biden administration kind of exited is they banned drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, I think. It's something like that. I think there was an executive order. I might be wrong. I don't quote me on that, but you can look into it, find out if there's something having to do. I think that was why. And so he's like, cool, well, we'll just rename it the Gulf of America and we'll start drilling right now.
Yeah.
Because he wants to get us energy independent again. He wants the American energy sector to expand so that way we don't have to buy energy from other people, because that's a real problem we have right now. If the power grid is so fragile for the United States. We gotta get energy independent. We need a surplus for energy. We need to drive the cost of gas and fuel down for people. We need to drive the cost of oil down. We need to drive the cost of electricity down, because it's been skyrocketing. Like, so I think that's one of the things that for the Gulf of America for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of people, like, just want to recap what you said.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of people have pointed at him and said it's like American arrogance, but it's like, no, he's the art of war
so
strategically.
he can do something.
Yeah, it's like you said we can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Cool.
Fine.
Semantics.
It's not the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to drill in the Gulf of America.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're going to be energy independent, and we're going to be the most prosperous nation in the world.
Because
the strongest nation in the world.
He's just navigating the bureaucracy. That's what he's doing. He's like, we're not playing games. We're full steam ahead. We're gonna take this. We're going to get America to a place where we are strong and we are energy independent and we're energy rich. He's like, I'm not playing these semantics with you. Is basically what it comes down to. He's like a very a hard-nosed businessman. He's like, we're gonna get this thing back on track. We're gonna get this thing moving in the right direction. We're gonna get energy independent. We're gonna get our military to a certain strength. I do think that the Panama Canal is a very strategic place to have possession of. I know do we have people down there? I don't know for sure.
I don't know if we have people down there. I know we built it.
Yeah,
right?
obviously,
we built it and paid for it.
I guess we were giving them money to allow them, or for them to allow us to bring our Navy vessels through there. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know a lot about that piece. I think that they were there's an agreement where hey, we'll provide you with certain funding or certain, I guess, aid, foreign aid, if you allow us to use this to traverse from the Pacific to the Atlantic and stuff like that. And if we just hey, look, now we're gonna go through for free, that would be a big monetary gain for us, and we'd have more influence in the region and be able to get from the Atlantic to the Pacific much quicker without having to deal with the bureaucracy of well, you need to give us this much money for it or whatever. Greenland. So here's the thing about Greenland and Canada, I guess you could say Greenland and Canada. There's a big concern with the fact that the Russians have built a bunch of icebreakers and are trying to potentially build military bases up around the North Pole area, because it's a shorter distance to shoot missiles into America from up there. Kind of the same as having a missile base in Cuba, right? It's when you're up there, up in the North Pole area, the missile has to travel far less distance to get down south than it would if they had to shoot it all the way from Moscow or from Kamchatka or wherever it is, you know what I mean, or from Siberia. So there's a big military interest in that whole Arctic, North Pole region up there. Greenland is just a massive strategic location because it's projecting power out there towards Europe, way out there. And if we could, even if they don't I don't think they're going to become a state. Because I've seen the governor, not the governor, but the leader of their whatever parliamentary system they have there. It might be the prime minister. I'm not sure. They have voiced their opinion that they want to be a free, independent nation from the Danish. Is that right? Denmark. From Denmark.
Yeah.
So they want to be an independent nation, and they have the freedom to become independent anytime they want, written into their constitution, I believe. So I think they're probably going to become independent. I don't think they're going to become a state.
But maybe U.S. territory.
They might be interested in that. I don't know. Which that would be fine, because it'd be like Puerto Rico, right?
Right, yeah.
And we could develop a partnership where it would be financially lucrative to their economy and the locals that live there. However, I think it's 15,000 or 25,000 people. It's not very many.
No.
And then maybe we build a base there. Maybe we set a base up there that's a forward, a base that's kind of projecting that American military power out there into the North Atlantic, right? That's a super strategic national security position. Canada, obviously, we already provide them so much money and aid, and our militaries work together all the time. We train together all the time. We're already we're both anytime anything enters the airspace, we're both talking to each other about it. So if they became a territory too, I think they'd be cool. That I don't know if I don't think they would ever be on board with wanting to be a state, just because the culture is so different up there. It's very much more liberal than I think the rest of America is. Although I don't know. I mean, maybe that could happen. I know a lot of Canadians that are super into guns and hunting and fishing, and you know what I mean.
Freedom. They feel like they've completely lost their freedoms there. And,
so
they've been I think individuals like especially outside of Montreal, Quebec, and BC, cities. Like big cities. Outside of big cities, Canadians are like at heart like lumberjacks and
I mean, there's a lot more country up there than there is city for sure. You know,
I think there'd be some interest from the citizen base.
Sure. And I mean, it's just going to be like, I think it'd bring more prosperity to their nation if they were like somehow included with America, but I don't know for sure how that's going to work. I mean, obviously Mexico, if they tied in with us, then we could work more closely together. I know he's obviously just declared the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization.
That's my last question for you.
Yeah. And that just happened. I think the State Department has 30 days or something like that.
Yeah.
They also they finally designated the Houthis. I can't remember, on Sharia, maybe. What's the actual name? Let me see. I just made a post about this like 2 days ago, if I can find it. Known as Ansar Allah. Yeah. So they have 30 days. The State Department has 30 days to redesignate them as a terrorist organization, foreign terrorist organization, which is interesting because President Trump had designated the Iranian-backed Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization in January of 2021. However, as soon as the Biden administration came in, they removed that designation. So now they're putting it back because they've been launching missiles and drones and all kinds of stuff at our ships constantly all year and over to Israel all year. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Just practically, they are a terrorist organization.
What they're doing is they're committing acts of terror. You know what I mean? So
as well as the Taliban and
Al Qaeda. Have you know Sarah Adams?
I do.
Yeah, I've been watching what she's been putting out too, man. Like all the stuff with like the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham folks in Syria that used to be called Nusra Front, which was an Al Qaeda affiliate.
Yeah,
you know, and they're like, oh no, we don't have anything to do with them anymore. It's like, are you sure? You sure about that?
Yeah.
You know, that's I'll tell you right now. So that's the only. I've never been deployed to combat. I've been in combat zone.
Yeah,
like I've been in Syria. I've been in Iraq. The only reason it's called a combat zone is because you're getting imminent danger pay and hazardous duty pay. I was never in any danger. Never been in combat. But when I was there, I had to learn about the AO. Most complicated AOR I've ever been in my life. There were so many actors, so many people in play.
And they're changing all the time.
And they change all the time, and they change sides all the time. And sometimes they're working for Daesh or ISIS. Sometimes they're working for the pro-regime forces. Sometimes they're working for the PKK. Sometimes they're working for the SDF. It's weird because we only back certain organizations that are like, hey, this is this is our official partner force. The Syrian Democratic Forces specifically is one of them. And like we don't affiliate with all these different affiliates of theirs because some of them they're designated as FTOs as well. But now that the regime has been toppled and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is kind of like the interim government in the meantime out in the west part of the country, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. You know, my hope is that they can find a way to peacefully coexist with the SDF because the Kurds have literally suffered for so long and they've just been dealt the crappiest hand of cards all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they deserve a little bit of help, a little bit of support, you know?
Yeah. You mentioned the cartels.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think with the cartels being listed as terrorist organizations, what people may or may not realize about that is it takes it from the DEA, you know, international law enforcement organization dealing with them, and now that allows the United States government, the White House, to unleash JSOC on them. And so, when people think about cool. like JSOC, they're probably thinking like, okay, you got like Delta Force or SEAL Team 6 versus the militant cartels. But that's not what we're talking about. Being at JSOC, I remember just being blown away going to JSOC and learning the capability of it as an organization and institution. There is no corner on the planet that these cartel leaders can hide from the wrath of JSOC. I mean, the violence, the level of violence and capability that the JSOC command has, most people would never understand. This is like you just unleashed like a pack of like the most ravaged wolves on the planet in a chicken coop. Like people, like the cartels they're armed and no, there's nothing they can do. Yeah, nowhere they can hide.
Nobody's trained like our tier. Is JSOC considered tier 1?
That's the tier 1. That's the SMUs, the special mission units. I mean, but you're talking about the air assets. As from assaulter force, you got Delta Force, you have SEAL Team 6 from the intelligence and Signet, and you have the 160th. You have Task Force Orange for the that human and Signet capability to do the clandestine logistics operation. Like there is nowhere that these cartel leaders could hide that they will not destroy them. I mean, they should just right now, if they're smart, they take their cash. They retire.
Yeah. And go live the rest of your life out on the beach and watch the sunset every day.
Yeah. If that goes through, and it looks like it is.
Yeah.
And, well, I know what their designation is going to go through. If President Trump gets his way, and it is handed off to the Pete Hegseth, and it goes down to JSOC to execute, treating these cartels like terrorist organizations.
Yeah, they are well armed. Don't get me wrong; they got a lot of stuff down there for sure. Like kind of like they were armed similarly to the way that the Taliban is armed right now. But that doesn't matter because it's still like the level of proficiency and skill and coordination and capabilities and supporting elements that are supporting these guys. It's like a hive mind of lethality, ready to get out there and prosecute targets. I
mean, what happened when President Trump came in office the last time in 2016? President Obama had said ISIS. You would look at the cartels versus ISIS. They said ISIS it would take generations for us to be able to deal with the ISIS problem.
Yeah.
President Trump came in. I talked to Sebastian Gorka, who was in the room. I spoke to other people in the room.
Yeah.
And he wanted to brief on ISIS. And how do we get rid of them? And they said, all we have to do is unleash JSOC on them. And President Trump's reply back with, kill them all.
Yeah.
And in 5 months, ISIS was eliminated off the planet.
Those guys were getting some work done, though. I bet they were working their butts off.
Yeah. But that's the capability. I mean, Obama's saying it's going to take decades, generations to 5 months. Yeah. Just let the boys do what they do.
Well, see, a lot guys like him don't like really. I mean, they've never served in the military. They don't understand the capabilities and limitations that our like tier 1 guys have, because if you don't have any experience with the military, you're not going to understand it or like know really like the true levels of capability that the people you have command over can do, and it's hard to brief people up on that, because like even if you can brief them, like they're not gonna understand if they haven't seen it, or if they haven't like read the reports of like, hey, this is all the things that they've done over the past course of the month. Like they've done the job that a battalion could have done with like teams of dudes. Because they're just so capable and they have such a good solid support system.
That's what it is. And people will be like, oh, I see Narcos, or I seen MS-13. MS-13 looks scary.
Yeah.
Man, no idea what scary looks like.
Yeah, but JSOC is probably very scary to them. I think that's probably the reason why, you've seen some people get kidnapped over the past couple of years, and then they found out they're Americans, and they're like, you freaking idiot. And the guys that kidnapped them end up dead and getting found, and the Americans got released. Because they're like, we don't want to get the government of America mad at us, because we want to keep doing business because we're making money. So don't jack that up. Yeah. And so that you've seen it. I've seen like news about that kind of stuff. So
So our message to you: if you're a cartel leader, retire.
Yeah.
Or
just take your cash. Dude, take your cash. Go find a nice beach and just sip Mai Tais, dude.
Or die.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the two choices you have. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it, man.
Well, man, I really appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that.
And keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think the Marine Corps is on board with you, because you're able to not only get news out, inform the population of your audience, but you're also helping brand the Marine Corps, and that's a really good thing.
Well, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is it like what I'm trying to do is no different from what every Marine should be doing. Like, you should be out there being a good ambassador of the brand, being a good representative, because if you get a DUI, what's the front page of the newspaper going to say? Marine gets DUI, right?
Right.
If you get out there and you save a whole litter of kittens from a burning house, they're going to say Marine saves whole litter of kittens from burning house, right? So just get out there and be a good example for society, and you're going to encourage other people just through living or leading by example, and they're going to be like, you know what, I want to be part of that organization. I want whatever they are doing. I want whatever they got going on.
Yeah.
Also, let me before I forget, let me give you one of these things here. I had these made.
Oh, man.
That's for you.
That's super cool. Let's see.
Yeah. They're serialized. I only had 350 of them made. So
that is super awesome.
Yeah, man. That's a picture of Bella Wood right there. Yeah, it's a picture of a devil dog in Bella Wood.
Yeah, come on in here.
On the other side.
Come on in here, Stanley.
Yeah, that one right there.
That's super cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you,
Absolutely. We'll get you hooked up with Smith & Wesson Firearm, Vortex Optics,
Hell yeah.
and Gators Eyewear, and we got some amazing sponsors for the show. I don't know if you heard of BioPro. A lot of our guests.
I've heard it. Yeah.
So we'll get you some BioPro. It's a natural HGH hormones. Marine Corps.
Okay.
You could use it in the military. It's like USADA approved.
Okay.
UFC, so.
I'll take it to my battalion medical officer. Be like, hey, can I take this?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll check with them first.
It's super effective. And then we have another company called Ally Wealth Management that makes the show happen. So we get some great sponsors for the show and supporters.
That's
love
awesome.
our guests and want to take care of our guests. So
well, I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
I would have come on here regardless. Just you know, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do another one too at some point.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing the audience that know yet. We're gonna start doing a weekly live.
Nice.
And I want to bring in some of the guys that were guests before, just to talk about current event topics and just chat. kind of like we just did.
I'm all about it.
So hey, if you're not following Kagan already, go to his Instagram. Where else? Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I got Twitter. I mean, you could just Google me and you can find all my stuff on Google. It's pretty easy to find my stuff.
Amazing, like daily content to follow. So give him a follow. If you hadn't yet, like this channel, share it, comment on it, and certainly subscribe to all the platforms. We got some more incredible guests coming out. So stay safe, stay resilient, and we're gonna go tour the rest of SHOT Show here in Vegas. God bless. Hey, what's up, Resilient family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind-the-scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.